Welcome back to Tuesday Traffic Jam. We're glad you could join us during rush hour traffic. My name's Corinne Tucker, and I'm a multimodal planner here at the MPO. I have a public health background, and I specialize in equity. I'd like to introduce my co-host and the mastermind behind the 2045 Long Range Transportation Plan Update, Lee Holt. Lee established her career by serving the public in both local governments and MPOs alike. She is a trails advocate and the MPO's leading strategist. We are very lucky to have her here with us today.
Thanks, Corinne. Hi, I'm Lee Holt. I'm the Strategic Planning Manager for the MPO. I'm excited to be here to talk about this week's topics: infrastructure, resiliency, equity, and livability. Lots of big transportation words. And really, when people think about transportation, they first think about roads. And in Florida, we also have to think about bridges. Did you know that there are almost 500 bridges in Manatee and Sarasota counties, and some of them are over 50 years old? Infrastructure condition means the quality of the road or the bridge, and resiliency means how quickly can we regroup, repair, and reopen our roads and bridges for our citizens after an event like a hurricane.
What an important point to make, especially now, seeing as we're in hurricane season in Florida. Knowing this, Lee, what are some ways the MPO assesses bridges and pavement condition to ensure informed decisions are being made?
Well, the MPO receives their pavement and bridge information from the Florida Department of Transportation. Roads and bridges are inspected and graded about every 3 years, and most of our roads and bridges are in good condition. The FDOT does a great job. We do have some important bridges that are in fair condition. We don't have anything in poor condition. Our fair bridges include the DeSoto Bridge, Anna Maria, Cortez, Longboat Pass, and Coon Key, which is a tiny bridge that connects St. Armands to Ringling. These bridges are the top priorities for the MPO.
Thanks, Lee. And since you mentioned it, the Coon Key Bridge is actually in the Project Development and Environment Study phase, better known as PD&E, for the proposed improvements. In the near future, Florida DOT will be holding an alternatives public workshop and a public hearing for this study. But as we continue to talk about roads and bridges, another important factor is making sure they work for everyone. Meaning, do they only serve people driving, or can I ride my bike, walk, or use a wheelchair? On today's episode, we have two guests here to talk more about the topic of equity and livability. I would like to introduce our guests, Jennifer Musselman and Bessie Reyna. Jen, Bessie, could you please take a minute or two and introduce yourselves?
Hi, Corinne. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Jennifer Musselman, and I'm an engineer with Kittleson, one of the MPO's planning consultants. I have spent my career making sure that our streets are safe for all users, and this of course includes people who are driving, but also people who are walking, biking, and taking the bus. I've worked on numerous corridor studies and area studies, including the MPO's active transportation plan, to help communities understand the needs of each street user and how to strike a balance between them to make our communities more livable. I think that's the biggest challenge we face today. How do we retrofit a transportation system that was built primarily for cars into a system that works for everyone? Bessie?
Hello, everyone. So my name is Bessie Reyna. I'm the planning manager at the Florida Department of Transportation District 1. I lead the planning studio for the district, where we manage planning studies like corridor vision plans and provide input on the district's various transportation projects. The focus of my team, Planning Studio, is to plan for people, to promote complete streets, and ensure that communities' long-term vision and values are considered and incorporated in the work that the district leads. I think the biggest transportation challenge we face today is managing how we want to grow, what we want to prioritize as we work to address congestion and provide transportation options in our communities. Thanks for having us here today, Corinne.
Thanks, Jen and Bessie. We're really glad you could join us and share your knowledge and expertise, especially on the topics of equity and livability. You know, in recent news, with all that's going on, there's been a lot of talk about a rise in bicycling as a means to get around. Jen, what do you think are some best practices that our region could implement to make it easier for people to bike, walk, and ride transit?
That's a great question, Lee. The region already has so many great facilities for walking and biking. With the existing trail network and lower speed neighborhood streets that also provide great bike routes. What we tried to do in the active transportation plan was identify segments to connect these existing bike routes so people can get around more easily. The goal is to connect people to key destinations around the region and make sure they have a way to get around within those destinations. We also want to focus on walk and bike facilities that are close to bus stops. The plan includes an inventory of stops and how many have good sidewalk and bicycle facilities around them. The areas around bus stops are a great place to focus on future investment. Lastly, a key part of being able to walk, bike, or catch the bus is simply being able to cross the street. Locating crossings near bus stops and major destinations can go a long way towards making our communities more livable.
Now that's interesting. It sounds like the active transportation plan is a great resource to learn about best practices and how they can be applied right here in Sarasota, Manatee. In fact, the Equity and Livability chapter and its supplemental documents detail the areas that are accessible and the areas where those best practices can be applied. A lot of what you mentioned, Jen, are also strategies used for placemaking. Bessie, the FPOT Planning Studio just recently hosted a placemaking workshop webinar. Can you explain what placemaking is and describe some key takeaways from the training that could be applied here in the region?
Sure, Corinne. In the transportation context, placemaking is looking at the road as a part of the public realm, which reflects the community's vision for itself and its values. It's a place that people do not simply go through, but a place that people want to or they have to be in. Examples of places in our region are going to be Main Street in City of Sarasota, Fifth Avenue in the City of Naples, and First Street in downtown Fort Myers. So these public spaces not only should reflect the community's vision, but be designed as a space that all people can safely and comfortably move about. In terms of key takeaways from the placemaking webinar that we just held, making sure that you have a dense, well-connected, and diverse transportation network, particularly around activity centers, is so important. This way, there's not just a few roads that you're putting all your transportation on, but you can also have a complete transportation network that provides the community with a variety of options and routes for the various mode that people want to use as they move about.
Well, that's great, Bessie. Thank you. And thanks, Jen. You know, really what I think you're saying is that we should be planning for people and not for cars. We've got to think about what all people need. And I think that's what we're trying to do in our long-range transportation plan. I'd like to close the interview with one last question. Jen, Bessie, does accessibility play a role in equity and livability? And if so, how?
Absolutely, Lee. If you're unfamiliar with the term, accessibility refers to someone's ability to reach desired services and activities. Transportation plays a huge role in what opportunities are available to us, how many jobs we can get to, our ability to get healthy foods, and our opportunities for recreation and social activities. The accessibility analysis the MPO did tells us where land uses are organized in a way that allows these connections to happen. And it's in these areas that we ought to focus on things like crosswalks and filling sidewalk gaps to make sure that walking and biking are safe. By providing alternatives to driving, we can help level the playing field for lower income communities and improve their access to daily needs and opportunities. Bessie, what do you think?
Well, Jennifer, I agree. Accessibility plays a huge role. A consistent theme that we have heard in our outreach for studies and plans is that people want safe and viable options to move about in their communities. Not only does it help to level the playing field, but it opens the door for opportunities to improve livability and quality of life items like walkability, health, identity, and place.
Jen, Bessie, thank you for spending time with us today and for taking a deeper dive into equity and livability. If anyone has any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment box. Anything we receive will be addressed at the beginning of our next episode.
Yeah, thank you, Jen and Bessie. We appreciate you being here with us today. And whether you're returning or tuning in for the first time, thank you for listening and watching the Tuesday Traffic Jam.
Don't forget to tell us how we did. We'd love to hear your feedback. Just a reminder, if you haven't taken our transportation investment survey, it's open until July the 10th, and you can find out how to take the survey on our website at www.mympo.org. By taking the survey and sharing your priorities, you'll help us decide which programs and projects are going to be submitted to the state and federal transportation departments for future funding.
Yeah, if you go to www.mympo.org, you will see here at the top, how would you spend $5 billion on transportation? Below are 3 buttons. The first will take you to the survey. The second will take you to a community needs map where you can drop a pin on any location and leave comments. And the third will take you to the Tuesday Traffic Jam's webpage where you can see a list of all the available episodes. Here you can click the participate button for each episode and watch the podcast and download the documents that are available for you to review and comment. Before we go, the next episode of Tuesday Traffic Jam will be posted on July 14th. In the meantime, don't forget to check out the available planning documents and let us know what you think. On that note, thank you everyone again for joining us for your Tuesday Traffic Jam. Have a wonderful day, and whether you drive, walk, bike, or ride transit, please be alert and stay safe. Bye.
Bye.